So originally I wrote a giant script. I kind of styled it in the sort of format of Scamboli reviews, which ended up kind of not really going anywhere. That guy takes a lot of time and effort to make his videos, and that's why he doesn't post very often. And overall, I felt like it would just be better if instead of making some overly pretentious video about why I have a lot of faith in the Amazing Digital Circus, I just kind of sit here and do a more traditional styled forced positivity video where I just kind of talk about it. And for once in a very long time on this channel, I am just going to kind of gush about something I really thoroughly enjoyed, a lot more than I thought I would, which is the Amazing Digital Circus pilot, which just released on YouTube a few days ago. It's by the same people who made Murder Drones, or produced by them, and it is written and sort of the creation of Gooseworks, who has worked on a lot of other stuff before. You've probably seen some of their work if you watch Hell of a Boss or Has Been. You've definitely heard some of their music before for sure. I'm not really going to give like a plot rundown of what happens in the pilot. This is mostly just my first impression. So if you're wary of spoilers, I highly suggest you watch it before listening to this video because I'm going to be talking about literally everything. Well, not everything, but I'm going to be spoiling everything. So yeah, go do that. It's pretty good, you won't regret it. The first thing that stood out to me with this pilot is just how refreshing it feels. I don't really watch many 3D animated shows, but obviously a lot of people, especially in Western cartoon fandoms, have been very critical of a lot of things. I believe it's called the Cal Arts art style. And sort of the online indie animator art style, these sort of memes that get shown where they take a bunch of characters from different shows and put them next to each other, and it's like, you can't even tell if they're from different shows or not. Well, the nice thing about the Amazing Digital Circus is that it is a 3D animated show that has a very unique art style. Everything feels like it wouldn't be out of place in like an HD Super Mario 64, maybe? That's kind of like the vibes it's giving me, or early 90s interpretations of what people would make on the internet and like how they would format everything. I don't know why that is exactly what jumps out to me, but this show has a very, very unique art style that I want to see a lot more shows kind of dip their toes into, because the show's art style is just so bright and colorful, which is really nice because it contrasts with the themes of existentialism and hopelessness that the show would probably provide if this were to become an entire show, which, as of right now, I don't know if it's clear that it's going to be a full show. I hope it's a full show. I hope it gets, like, an actual season of television. That would be really cool because I think there's more than enough plot to dig into, and they've set up so many things they can explore, and I really want to see more of these characters in this world because it's really good. It's really good. But the world building itself, with the whole concept of my running theory right now is that it's a game. There's a lot of things kind of alluding to the fact that it's a game because all of them have put on some kind of digital headset that's transported them to this world, and they've all been through this, so they all remember going through that at least on some level. Except maybe Kane. It's unclear if Kane... Well, I think Kane is probably the only character we've seen other than, I guess, Bubble, who isn't, like, explicitly proven to be a human who got transported to the world. Maybe they are, though, we don't know. But what's so fascinating of this game-like world building they've gone for is that it lets them do character designs like Kane. I mean, Kane is just a pair of teeth with eyeballs in it, and it is one of the most visually iconic and striking designs I have seen in a hot minute. And I mean this when I say this with all sincerity. It has as much iconography to me already as something like Freddy Fazbear does. Like, it's just a very simple, effective, clean design where when you see it, you just think to yourself, oh, that's Amazing Digital Circus. I know exactly what that's from, I know that art style, and I want to go watch it now. I want to go see it. For the purposes of, like, the story, if this was a game, and this was, like, the NPC that's the main character of the game, that's, like, your tutorial NPC, basically, or the game master, maybe, it makes sense that they would want to make something that was really marketable, but then out of universe, it's like, oh, wow, it's kind of, this is why I compared it to Freddy Fazbear's, is because it's kind of like the out of universe reason why we're so invested in it is because it's the same tricks being used in universe of like a super marketable game iconography character that immediately gets you hooked on the world and the world building. And I fucking love the character designs and a lot of the characters that are in this very, it doesn't feel that short, but short pilot. It feels a lot shorter than it is, but it isn't actually that short. I know that sentence was very truncated. I apologize. I'm kind of a mess right now. I'm working on Demon Time. I'm very tired. I've recorded this like 3 times. It probably shows. But a lot of the character designs are just so fresh, just because they're so unique. And I know I'm overselling this, but like, it is so nice to just see a show that isn't afraid to just let its characters not only have really out there designs, but in a meaningful way, but also have characters who actually have time to breathe their character interactions in the story. The pilot, despite having a lot of stuff crammed into its 30-minute runtime, is not afraid to let these sort of character beats play out. There's a lot of shots where it's just kind of characters interacting with each other in ways that are overall like inconsequential to the plot as a whole. I don't think anyone's going to complain if like Kinger and Gangle's joke about the rock paper scissors gag got cut, because overall it's inconsequential to the actual story being told. It doesn't matter because that doesn't like, you know, have a repercussion on the plot that actually means anything. All it does is set up another joke where when Kinger wins, because of course he's going to win because he actually has opposable thumbs, his disembodied hands, which can't actually pull Zubul out of the situation they're in, then just get taken with Zubul, and Kinger, having this weird disconnected moment, just kind of sits there and is like, oh, it's taking my hands. Okay. Alright. And we get this, like, really funny shot of them just, like, a close-up of Kinger, like, realizing this, like, oh, shit, like, nothing's gonna happen. Damn, that's funny. And it's great. I love it. You could cut those for story reasons, but for character reasons, I see why they didn't cut them and chose to include them and make it such a good little joke exchange between these two, because it endears me to these characters so much more in just less than a minute than, like, entire pilots struggle to do with 30 minutes. A lot of times, pilots will just kind of like sit there and exposit a lot of characters at you and a lot of the story at you without letting these characters actually have room to breathe. Ironically enough, I think this is something that a lot of people have criticized the Has Been Hotel pilot of being kind of guilty of. And I'm not trying to compare the two in like a way to say that this is the new Has Been Hotel or anything like that. But I think a very fair criticism of that, because both this and Has Been Hotel introduce a lot of different characters, and all of them are kind of doing something. They all have their own personalities, their own thoughts and feelings on things. But whereas here, most of them are given like something to do, even if Zubul's entire thing is just getting captured and held hostage for pretty much the entire pilot, that is still something that Zubul is participating in and doing. Whereas in Has Been Hotel, it kind of feels like we cut away from the A plot to a plot where Angel Dust is just kind of dicking around with Cherry Bomb and Snake Guy, whose name I always mispronounce, so I'm not even going to bother pronouncing it, Sir P. Whereas in Has Been Hotel, it feels like a lot of the times we were kind of cutting away from things, and even when the story was going, I don't really feel like I understand a lot of these characters. Like, I don't really feel like I understand Vaggie or Charlie really that much. I feel like I understand Angel Dust, because we spent a lot of time with him. But for how many characters were in the pilot, I only really understand one of them. Whereas in Amazing Digital Circus, I feel like I have a good grasp on a lot of the dynamics that would play out between a lot of the different characters. Like, because we saw Gangle interact with Kinger and Jax, and also Pomni, I feel like I understand their dynamic, how they feel about certain characters, how they feel about their situation they're in. The fact that they have a comedy mask. I wonder what Gangle's like with their comedy mask on, because they're probably a lot happier and a lot more cheerful. Zubul showing concern, even though Zubul kind of went through a shitty situation. Ragatha showing concern, even though Ragatha went through a shitty situation. For Pomni, those were kind of nice little character beats where it's like, oh shit, they care, because like at the end of the day, they know that they want to make like Pomni not feel like it's a bad situation, a bad experience. Speaking of Pomni, so many times in these pilots, the sort of POV character ends up being an annoying bitch because they're like our audience surrogate to show us what the world is like. But Pomni kind of strikes a good balance of whining enough that you know that she doesn't like the situation she's in, but also not like overdoing it. They kind of do a good job of just getting that plot beat out of the way, like a lot of these plot beats, where they don't spend, like, because it's a pilot, they have to move and take as much of the time as they can and do meaningful stuff with it. They don't bother with some scene of Pomni in the real world putting on the VR headset. I'm sure this got like tossed around during like the script writing process, right? Of Pomni in the real world, putting on the headset, maybe finding the headset, loading up this weird game, clicking into it, and getting into the game. Whoa! Sequence of them going into the game, transforming. Oh my god! What's happening? And then we get the cutscene of the opening song with all the characters getting introduced. We don't get that, because that doesn't add anything to the pilot. Maybe in episode 1 we would, but here it's just about the most meaningful information to try to get you hooked on this pilot as soon and as quickly as possible. We get introduced to all the major characters, we get introduced to a lot of the most important plot beats, we get introduced to the concept of the fact that this digital world is a game, and the fact that you're never gonna leave it, there's no escaping it, and even the exit that was kind of shown for most of the pilot was just a creation by Kane, so it wasn't even real, which is interesting, but there is like stuff outside the void that Kane doesn't even know about, so maybe there's an exit lurking somewhere out there, who knows? Maybe they're just on someone's computer and they go out there and then they find the internet, which is like the final boss of the entire series. Whoa, it's crazy. Total speculation. But what's so interesting is the fact that in this short time, we get introduced to all these different characters, and the concept of the existential, so many horror and existentialist themes. I love the black comedy tag, and black comedy is one of my favorite forms of comedy, because laughing at the absurd, horrible circumstances that you can find yourself in, that's like right up my lane for humor. And hearing the Gmod stuck like ragdoll sound was also really nice, and seeing that one joke of Kinger like glitching out as they just say like they're the most like stable characters had me dying the first time I saw it. That one shot of Pomni, I'm just labeling shots I really liked, I don't care. That one shot of Pomni being asked like, hey, right Pomni, this is all still a dream, and it's just like those sound effects. The sound effects were really good too, specifically on that scene with all the computer digital technology sound effects, where Pomni is like freaking out. That was really good. I just really like this pilot. I felt like it was a really nice complete package. We learn about abstraction too, which is this horrifying concept. We learn about the fact that there's been probably dozens of other people who have been here before our characters were even here. Because we see in the pit at the end that there's quite a few creatures down there that all look like Kaufmo. The motif of eyes being used repeatedly, which is, and you know, normal horror stuff where it's like, oh my god, there are eyes and they're like staring at you, and oh my god, doesn't that like make you feel unsettled? But here it kind of feels more justified and earned because of this low poly aesthetic. Or maybe low poly is the wrong way of putting it, but this sort of gamey aesthetic, it kind of feels more out of place because it feels more otherworldly, because it's just a big mass with eyeballs, whereas everything else kind of has a little bit of reason and sense to it. I mean, Kaufmo, we saw the cardboard cutout at the beginning, looked a lot more like a clown, a lot more like Pomni than he does now, which is a pretty bad sign because they're both on the same track of trying to find an exit and then going crazy because of it. With Pomni bordering on insanity by the end of the pilot, which is not good. Speaking of Pomni, random trivia, I think their design might be based on this Kirby character for some reason. I don't know why. They remind me of this character a lot because of the beach ball, or the juggling ball, whatever it is, and then the little jester outfit. And if you know anything about Marks from Kirby, oh boy, Pomni might be in for some trouble. Oh boy. No spoilers, smiley face. This game's good. You should go play it. This was my first Kirby game I ever played. It was great. That's a tangent. Speaking of another tangent, the fact that Amazing Digital Circus gets abbreviated to like ADC is really funny because in League of Legends that means attack damage carry, so I still auto-corrected in my mind to attack damage carry, so when I saw people in my server talking about ADC being really good, I was like, AD carry in League of Legends has always been, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, get up to date with the meta, guys, like, come on. And then I realized they were talking about something else. That's how I heard about this show. People recommended it to me. And I recommend it to other people. I think that there's a lot to enjoy with this pilot, and I've already rewatched it twice. I'm probably going to rewatch it again. The music, I haven't even said anything about the music. Oh my god, the music is so good. It is amazing. I wish I could just listen to some of the songs in isolation. Some of them are uploaded, but I specifically, the song where Pomni's in the void staring at everything is just so hauntingly beautiful. It really helps you sell the moment of Pomni's underlying insanity and realization that all of this is hopeless. I love the fact that finally we are just getting a series that is allowing these characters to be put in shitty situations and realistically experience them in non over the top ways. Like, it's still comedic. It's still very comedic, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of comedy in this. But the subtle existentialism of Pomni going up to a mirror, even while being chased by a big monster, it's not them by them like in the moment, but the character decision to reach up and touch their face and come to terms with, holy shit, this is my new name, this is my new face, this is my new body, this might be my new life. If I forgot my name, it presents the horrifying reality that the person who went into the circus and the person who was in the circus may not be the same person who comes out of it. If you forgot most of the things about you when going into a circus, like your name, your mind, that's a pretty core thing to your character most of the time, most people would say. Most people have a name, I feel. I think that's not a most controversial statement. If you could forget something as integral to yourself as that, what's to say you're not going to forget all the stuff when you leave, if you leave? Is abstraction really someone dying or going insane, or is it some kind of corruption that'll just get them all eventually? We don't know, and that is so interesting because it feels like this show, this pilot, has answers. And I know that sounds crazy. It feels like the entire world is solved before this was written, and that makes me have a lot of faith in it, because I genuinely believe, with the proper amount of tender love and care, that the Amazing Digital Circus, I'm sorry for how unhinged all my ramblings have been. I'm sorry that if you didn't glean anything positive from this, and if it's just been kind of me speaking aimlessly for about 15 minutes, I'm sorry. But I truly believe, if nothing else, this show has the potential to be one of the biggest breakout hits in terms of online animation in recent years. It has the world building, the characters, and most importantly, the storytelling to do it. The pilot isn't perfect. There are a few animation things that are kind of wonky, and you can use the excuse it's a game. It's not perfect, but it is so good at selling you on that vision. In a sea of things vying for your attention, I firmly believe that the Amazing Digital Circus is one of the things that is actually worth it, and that makes it stand out so much from a lot of the slop that people kind of consume on a daily basis. I look forward to hearing more about this show, because seeing how this pilot has kind of blown up recently and people won't stop talking about it, including me, I think it has a pretty bright future. And I really hope it turns into something even more special than it already is. If you haven't watched it still, go check it out. I promise you won't regret it. And if you do, it happens.
Angel food cake? Ow! You parasite!